This week's guest is a real treat. In my eyes, I've only gotten to know this guest over the last week, having done a quite a bit of a deep dive on him. And hand on heart, he's probably the most well networked business owner in Dublin. If you take a quick scroll through his Instagram, you're bound to come across a familiar face, from Bobby Kerr to Jamie White to Gary Fox. And if you aren't familiar with any of those names or any of the faces that you see, what you will be familiar with is with his business, Dublin Barista School. Thousands of students have graduated from Dublin Barista School. So if you yourself haven't, I'm sure you know someone in your family who has. James McCormack, you're very welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Rian. Thanks for having me.
Dublin Barista School is not your only business. You have ninth degree coffee as well.
So
So
yeah, I've been called a serial entrepreneur, but really it's just kind of like it's the journey of most entrepreneurs. I think you're trying to find something that sticks from the beginning. And so where we are today, we have a number. I call them brands rather than businesses, because under Dublin Barista School, which is the limited company, we have a number of different brands. And that's strategically because it's much easier to manage just one company rather than having to manage five companies.
yeah,
So where I am today is that we have essentially a number of brands under the coffee umbrella. So we have Dublin Barista School, which is your physical classroom training business. We have the World Barista Institute, which is our online training business. So we wanted to differentiate those two brands. Then we have what it's not launched yet, but we're launching it now next week, called Barista on Demand, which is our corporate team building kind of brand, if you will. So it's a virtual corporate team building. So we send packs out to corporate companies, out to the homes of their employees, and we do a virtual brewing session with them then. So that's kind of our next venture, and we've already been doing it for the last we've been doing it for the last 10 years, but virtually for the last 4 months, and it's been really, really successful. And so the final one then is Ninth Degree Coffee, which is really developing into our functional coffee brand, which is mushroom coffee specifically right now, which again, as an entrepreneur and someone who loves business, you're looking at the market and you're looking at what's trending and where the potential growth is. So I see huge potential in that business, which it's a direct to consumer business. So Shopify, e-commerce, digital marketing, kind of some stuff that I'm not too comfortable with. But it's interesting learning about them.
before we start at chapter one, you mentioned mushroom coffee. Surely I can't be the only one who is confused. What is that?
So the functional coffee space as a general term is confusing in its own right, because but basically, to simplify it, it's just essentially getting your morning cup of coffee and upgrading it into something that's a little bit more healthy, I suppose, or it's got health aspects to it. So the most famous in the world would be Bulletproof Coffee, if you've come across that brand before. And so, for example, every morning I have Bulletproof. I have MCT oil in my coffee, so I add that in, and that's, inverted commas, supposed to give me greater focus, and it basically it gets through the blood-brain barrier, and I'm able to have greater focus and immediate results and clarity and all this type of stuff. And actually, I think it's true. It's coconut oil, but I'm kind of addicted to it. So I take that every morning. A couple of years ago, I'm very health conscious individual anyway. So a few years ago, I started messing around with medicinal mushrooms, and just something I got in my local health shop. You put into your food, and it's like if you go back to traditional Chinese medicine, these mushrooms would have been used for thousands of years to number one, boost your immune system, depending on the variety of mushroom, to help with focus and cognitive function, as well as to improve your general performance. So I think, as most entrepreneurs who are out there, and not even entrepreneurs, people who are just high performers in general, we're always looking for that extra, if you want, people call it hack, but it's just an extra thing that's going to give you that extra performance level, or extra piece of clarity. And for me, it's just one of the tools that I use to help me be better at my job and to enjoy life a little bit better. So that's just me.
Nice. Well, look, I have health to touch on health as an aspect of this podcast. There's some questions that I hope you don't mind if I ask on that, but I want to go back, as I said, to chapter one. You went to Blackrock College. You graduated college. After college, you had a sales role at Irish Mortgage Corporation.
Yeah.
I'm in the sales world. I'm curious to know, from your perspective, what lessons did you learn from your time at Irish Mortgage Corporation, specifically in the sales role?
Yeah, well, the Irish Mortgage Corporation it's a dog eat dog company, and I loved it and I thrived in it. And prior to that, I had a series of jobs that I didn't enjoy: banking, worked as a in the estate agency industry. But what I really love is what I found I really loved was selling, and this is the place where I learned um, how to be a hardcore salesperson, I suppose. You would go in, and it's very intimidating place. 50 salespeople on a floor. Um, uh, uh, Up on the main wall was like a league table of performers. So you'd have the number one salesperson and number 50 salesperson, and you knew where you ranked within that table.
Ouch.
So
Did
so
you have the gong, the big gong to hit when you made the sale?
I can't remember. I think there may have been, but it's they didn't have a gong. But every Friday they would publish the updated list, so it was extremely competitive, and that was an environment that I loved and I thrived on. So what did I learn there? I learned that sales is a numbers game. Essentially, we figured out the formula. We did get formal sales training. They had a sales company, probably similar to your own company, who came in and gave us formal sales training, and they said, this is the formula if X plus Y equals Z. So if we call X amount of people and we have X amount of meetings from those calls, then we would get X amount of sales. And, it worked. And so I was extremely hungry. That a huge book of existing clients, and I got in there. I worked 7 days a week, and I rang every single person in that book. I rang more people than everyone else, and I climbed the ladder, if you will. And at one stage, I was number one. I was always in the top three in my time there. So I loved it, but it was all down to just having the hunger and having the willingness to work hard and to ring people.
You say hunger because, to me, I'm not in the working world long, 6-7 years. To me, of what I've noticed is there's two things that will drive people in sales: fear or passion, to make that call. You mentioned hunger. Not everyone is going to work 7 days a week, and not everyone is going to pick up the phone with the same attitude. Or what I'm trying to say is, a lot of people will make excuses to avoid picking up the phone and avoid doing the X, Y, and Z, as you mentioned.
I
Where did you
think
get your hunger from? Where does it come from?
I think in that particular example, I suppose there was fear within that formula itself, because I had a number of failed jobs before that, and I think I was trying to prove, probably to myself more than anyone, that I could do it. And it's still the same thing that I have today. I'm always trying to prove to myself that I can hit the next level, that I can play with the big boys, that I can create a big business. And when I went into the Irish Mortgage Corporation, as in that, I wanted to be number one, and I say I worked 7 days a week. I was the only person at that time, the history of the company, to bring a new development. As a new employee, I had a new development, if that makes sense, new property development that I had access to, that I could go on site and sell mortgages to. So that's why I was working 7 days a week, because I would work Monday to Friday in the offices. Then on the weekend, I would work offsite in that development, and I'd get more leads there. And I'd bring those leads back, and I'd call them, and I would, bring them through the process. And that was, a part of, I suppose, my early networking, really, and using my contacts to get really kind of lucrative. At that time, being on site was a very lucrative place to be, because you had people who were qualified for mortgages or going to be qualified for mortgages. And I was good enough to be able to, if they had approval already, I would sell them into our company. I say, look, I can get you a better deal. I'm 100% sure I can. And if not, I'll take care of you better. So, and that's, still the same way I look at business. It's customer focus. Everything goes back to the customer and the customer experience. And I know that if I look after that person, that they're going to promote me positively to their friends. So
Yeah.
it's that word of mouth kind of aspect that I've developed. So take away Google AdWords, take away Facebook and Instagram. By far the most powerful is that social proof, and that word of mouth kind of referral system is what this business, my existing business, has grown on. So
Well,
yeah.
let's park business to the side for a second and let's go a little more personal here. Scrolling through your Instagram, one of the many things you'll notice is you really enjoy hiking. I'm curious to know, what's your favorite hike in Ireland?
Oh, well, I've done the years ago. I did the was it the Three Peaks Challenge, and that was a great one. I think my favorite hike in Ireland. God, you caught me off guard there with that one. Um, there's the heart-shaped lake down in Wicklow. I can't remember the exact name, but it's Tarnary or something like that. That's a great one. But as always, it's tougher than it looks. It looks easy, but you always get lashed out of it with the wind. And it's got a beautiful view from the top. So, but the best hikes I've kind of done are outside Ireland, and I've been in South Africa. I've been lucky enough in Drakensberg Mountains. That was amazing. And in Nepal, in the Annapurna range, I did that by myself for 6 days. So there's been some amazing hikes. And really, hiking for me is just it's a time to switch off the telephone and to go hiking with your mates and just to have a chat. And so that's what I use it for now, as a kind of way of kind of reconnecting with my buddies. As we have a core kind of hiking group, and we're actually only today we're organizing the next hike. It's going to be probably just keep it local because we can't really go that far.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the reason why I mention hiking is because my girlfriend's parents live up the Dublin Mountains. That's where she's from, and when I started dating her, I started getting into hiking, and I know the heart shaped lake you're speaking about. It's one of the few that I haven't done. My favorite place, which I have not heard anyone mention so far, maybe because it's a country that's so small, is Madeira, out off the coast of Portugal,
I've
where
been there, yeah.
yeah, the hikes there I thought were absolutely amazing.
I never did. There's amazing views there. I've never didn't do a hike. It was one of my first holidays with my now wife. We went to the lovely island of Madeira. It's where Ronaldo's from, isn't it? Am I wrong?
It is where
Yeah.
Ronaldo's from. Yeah, I always find it funny when you see his statue. His gentled area is gold, and everything else is bronze, from people touching it. One of the other things on your Instagram is that you're an endurance runner. I'm curious to know, what's one thing that you're into that people might not know.
That I don't show too much on my Instagram.
Yeah.
God, well, like I love endurance. Well, I've come to love endurance running. I think I come under that term. I don't like to really use it, biohacker. I like to examine myself in great detail, my personal performance and my body. So I take my health very, very seriously, probably to extreme sometimes. And so as an example, I had a continuous glucose monitor on me there for 2 weeks, examining my glucose levels after eating, studying the food that I'm eating. I get my bloods done every 4 months with a functional doctor, not just a general practitioner, but there's a big difference. I am hugely into taking supplements. I like to IV them if I can. But the latest one I'm taking is this NAD plus, which is a molecule that basically activates your cellular regeneration, which is a big longevity tool. So I suppose going back to your original question, I'm massively into longevity and living longer and trying to live longer. And probably spurred on by the fact that my father died when he was 57 and my mother died when she was 69. So I'm planning on outliving them at their ages. So, and I'm just trying to understand how to live longer. And it's very, very it's very, very difficult and complicated and complex space, but I find that interesting. And I suppose as being a father now as well, I'm trying to get my kids into that healthy space, and I make them take 3 key supplements every morning. So just to get them into this habit. Now they're only 7 and 5, and they probably see them more as being sweets at this stage rather than actually something that's healthy for them. But they take fish oils, they take vitamin C, and they have a good multivitamin. So they're the 3 kind of core basics of the supplement kind of range that I give them, and still the same as I take myself, plus about 20 others. But
well, in a previous podcast, you said that in 2017 you were 120 kilos and 30 to 40% body fat. In that particular podcast, you then referenced you were down below 95 and 15-16% body fat. Alcohol was one of the things that you stopped drinking. Strangely enough, I actually stopped drinking alcohol myself at the beginning of this year. Not again similar to you, not because I'm an alcoholic. I just want to become the best version of myself. I take tablets in the morning now as well. I get out run daily as well. I'm curious to know the 2017 version of John versus the 2021 version when it specifically comes to health, noticing that you're 120 kilos, assuming that you're still below 95. What are the major differences?
I don't have any brain fog anymore, which is a big one. I have a lot of energy, which is the other main one. So, like operating a full day, you would historically come home and 5, 6, you'd be getting tired, but my energy levels are through the roof, which is one thing that I've really noticed particularly in the last year. So I'll get up. I don't use an alarm clock. I get up and my body wakes up essentially, which is so regulated now. So typically that's around 6 in the morning. Read a book, go for a run, and so I have a pretty heavy start in the morning. Like I'm getting a lot of stuff done, but I'm still energy at 7 or 8 in the evening when I'm putting the kids to bed. To come down, finish a bit of work, plan the next day, read another book, go to bed. That's the great thing. The energy levels, the brain fog was bad.
What is brain fog?
It's just when you're sitting in your office and you don't really have clarity of thinking, is the best way I can describe it. And it's kind of like this haze around you, if that makes sense. It's something that I experienced, and I didn't even realize that I experienced it until I didn't have it anymore. And it was more so going to my doctor. And it was connected to a number of things. It was connected to low testosterone levels. It's connected to your general health. So as soon as I kind of, and again, this is going back to getting my bloods done regularly. I look at my blood markers, and my doctor will say, "Look, you're doing really well here. Your T is improving, but you need to, take these supplements here, or you need to improve this or that." And that's kind of helped me climb out of that brain fog to where I am now with just extreme clarity in what I'm doing. Every day coming in, knowing what I have to do on a daily basis, having the clarity of vision to see where I'm going, and to have the energy to get excited by that. Whereas I didn't have that before, I think, is, if that makes sense in what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. No, it does. You referenced your parents earlier on 5 or 6 minutes ago. How much of an influence did they have on who you've become?
Oh, massive. My father was, he was a larger than life character. We called him Big John, was his name. 6'6". He was about 22, 23 stone, whatever that is in kilos. His hands were like shovels. So you would kind of, you'd have to psych yourself up going in for a handshake with him just so you get the right grip. And he was just a phenomenal character. Colorful. He didn't do things by the book. He grew up. If you listen to the previous podcast, he grew up in a lot of wealth. My grandfather was extremely wealthy, living in London. became a multimillionaire. My father was chauffeur, driven to school, that type of kind of mad stuff. 7-bedroom house in Ealing, and then they lost it all. His father was a chronic alcoholic, lost all his money, and they had to move back to Ireland. So my father had this kind of weird relationship with life, and he was always trying to, I think, he was always trying to emulate what his father. So he was always chasing his father essentially, and he was always chasing the big payout, the big deal, and that. But that was part of his charm as well. He was a big thinker. He was a visionary. He wasn't afraid to take risks. He always spoke big, and he traveled to South Africa. He brought his development company to Cape Town. He would tell you stories about the mines in the Congo, and about, starting all these businesses and in Africa, and it was just amazing, in terms of his ability to story tell, I suppose, and his ability to motivate and create vision. And so he was a phenomenal guy in that respect. But also, he had a lot of shortcomings, like most of us. He let drink get the better of him. He let his diet get the better of him. He got in the way of himself, I think. Again, like a lot of us do. And he wasn't there as a father as much as he should have been. And I felt a lot of anger towards that. And so, like, I have this love-hate relationship. Even though my father's dead now, I still have this love-hate relationship with him, in terms of, like, just I want to live my life the way, he didn't. And I suppose the way I'm living my life now is kind of
Do
completely
you think he
opposite.
shapes a lot of your beliefs, your current beliefs?
Yeah, he did for sure. And it's a strange thing, because your parents do shape your belief system. And I went through that process 3 years ago of, through my health, but I also went through this process of looking at all my beliefs, and I crushed them, I crumbled them, and I started my whole belief system again, and I started questioning everything. And I said, why do I think that? Why do I think this? And when I started writing it out, I realized that they were all, beliefs that my father had, as in your opinion of politics, your opinion of the government, your opinion of this, that, and the other. Um, and as it turns around, and as I started to own my own belief system, they all started coming back to being very similar to my original belief system anyway, if that makes sense. But I feel now that I own it, and I own myself, rather than someone else having that influence over me. So I think that's an important step, I think, for anyone to take.
Yeah, at the start of this podcast, when I referenced the Irish Mortgage Corporation, you said that it was always wanting to be number one, be the best, that drove you. Would it be fair to say that part of what that drove you, and potentially still drives you, is wanting to do what your father could never do but wanted to do?
Yeah, absolutely. He's what I found, back in 2017, was that I always was trying not to be my father,
Mm.
but I ended up doing exactly what my father had done. Like, I woke up, before, in 2017, not very happy. I was drinking a lot. I was overweight, as you say. I was really unhealthy. Um, and I came from a sporting background. I was big into sports. And so I woke up and I had this realization. I said, the person I'm trying to become is the person, or the person I'm not trying to become is the person I'm actually becoming, which is one of those kind of weird kind of things that happens to people in life, I suppose, in general. And then I woke up, and um, I started to change. It's a slow process change. And I started to do a lot of soul searching, and a lot of reflection. And I did Jordan Peterson's, what's it called?
His
Jordan,
online course.
yeah, he does an online psychology course. But basically, it's all about you writing. I just can't remember the name of it now. It's about you write about your past, your present, and your future. And when I started writing, I had these massive, unbelievable breakthroughs in my thinking, and realizations about manhood, and about becoming a man, and all these types of things, and relating back to my father, and, like, I've spoken about this in previous podcasts where I talk about the rite of passage and about man's rite of passage in terms of going from being a boy to becoming a man. And I had this kind of realization that my father kind of never really he never really stood out of the shadow of his own father, and he never really became like a man in what I perceived a man should be. And so in these moments, if this is making sense to people who are listening, in that moment I understood all my father's shortcomings, and I forgave him. And in doing that, I kind of just released this whole lot of baggage that I was carrying with me, and that allowed me to move on. And so this love hate relationship, what's driving me with my father is that, yeah, I want to prove that, like my father was an amazing man and he could have achieved the world. And I want to kind of put that right, I suppose, in doing it myself. And, it's slow progress, but we're moving in the
Yeah.
right direction.
Well, from the little that I can see from your Instagram, the two photographs behind you, and what you mentioned about your kids earlier on, giving them the right vitamins, you seem to be a great father yourself. But I want to move away from health, family for a second. And you reference sports. You're a big sports fan. What's your favorite sports team?
I Rugby, and Leinster still is. I was lucky enough to play with Leinster as a player
Amazing.
at the under 20 level, and I didn't have the discipline or the ability to keep it going. That was, I think, one of the things. If you look at my life now, I'm very, very disciplined, and it's a part of it has been influenced by um, the lack of discipline I had growing up, really. And I wish, I know, I should have had more discipline to really focus and double down on the ability that I had playing rugby to maybe further my career.
Mm.
But again, you can't get caught up in these things. And so what I'm trying to do now as an entrepreneur is take it extremely seriously. And I call myself the modern day entrepreneur because I'm trying to understand what the modern day entrepreneur is, and what that person does to succeed. And I'm trying to build that persona, I suppose. And from a regimented daily routine, to looking after my health, to to being a better parent, to being a leader in my company, and all these things that I'm trying to put in place. And it's a learning curve.
Hmm. You've got mentors. I read up on one of your Instagram posts that you said that mentors have had an impact on you. Can you explain to me what impact they have had on you?
Um, Huge impact. You mentioned Jamie White earlier.
Mm.
I started this whole networking process about 3 years ago, and I suppose the first person I reached out to was Jamie White. And I just met Jamie, and he said, "Look, I have a guy for you. I think that you'll get on with." And put me in touch with Anthony Quigley, who's Digital Marketing Institute, and I
And
met with him.
everything else in the world. That man has done everything.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. And so I met with him, and I didn't actually really know who he was when I met him. And he was just really nice. And I said, like, in my head after I met with him, he was just very open and giving. And he, I left the meeting after him. I said, God, I wish I could speak to him again. And I'm reading all these books and podcasts about mentors, and I need to get myself a mentor. And a month later, I plucked up the courage and I emailed him. I said, look, would you be my mentor? And he said, yeah, no problem. And so he became my mentor. I met him every month for about a year or so. And it was just a simple thing. Like, he gave me direction and advice, and just about business. And he helped me think about things in a different way. And he showed me things in a different light. And that really opened my eyes to the fact that, you know, my perspective is very limited, and I need more people to give me different perspectives. And
Mm.
as well as the mentoring, when you're getting an experienced mentor, they have a huge network already. So he's been connecting me with people in different areas that I needed help in. And he said, okay, talk to this guy, talk to this guy, talk to this guy, and then he connect me with them. And that was invaluable as well. And now so Anthony doesn't mentor me on a monthly basis anymore, but I can still call him and text him, and he calls me as well. And so we kind of have a very friendly relationship. My latest mentor helps me with goal setting. So we meet every quarter. I set my quarterly goals with him, and he goes through them, and he just makes sure that I'm hitting them, and he keeps me on track. Again, a very experienced entrepreneur. He's connected me with lots of people. Nick Carney, he's related. He's connected to the Irish rugby team. So, but as a businessman himself, he's very influential. And so the mentor aspect is not just the advice; it's getting into and it's connecting into a wider, higher level network as well. That's been
Yeah.
massively influential.
Well, again, referencing your Instagram, it feels like almost every question has stemmed from your Instagram here, but believe me, they all haven't. But on your Instagram, I see a ton of familiar faces, some that I don't even know as well. But it's safe to say that you network a lot. For those that might not believe in the power of networking or might be skeptical, concerned, can you take 30 seconds, 60 seconds to tell them why they should consider
Yeah.
networking and how it's paid off for you?
Very, very simply, it's the number one thing that has changed my dynamic as an individual and the dynamic of my company. Absolutely, it's probably the most important thing that I've done to get clarity about my vision and to help me grow at the speed that I'm growing now as an individual and as a person. Because networking, you're getting other people's opinions, and especially in the Irish network, people are very open and they're happy to share stuff with you. And as aside from networking, I've made some amazing friends. Like you mentioned Gary Fox earlier. Gary Fox is one of my great friends now, and I've known him for 2 years. And that was all stemming from network. And I can call Gary up, or if I have something I'm uncertain about, I'll just drop him a text, and he's a great person I can bounce stuff off. And other guys you've interviewed, Devin Hughes and Garrett Flower, and all these guys are brilliant guys to just be able to talk to on a basic level. But if you're not doing it, you have to start doing it, and it's as simple as dropping someone an email or a DM on Instagram or whatever, joining a group of some degree.
Yeah.
But it's been massively influential for me.
Yeah, agreed. I've only really started doing it myself, and the actual top that I'm wearing is Gareth Flowers set up a thing called Magnate. It's not shown, but I bought one of
I'm
the.
in that group as well.
Yes. Well, you on your bookshelf there, you've got a number of books. I can't necessarily see the titles of them, but I'm going to guess that you read books. Well, even more. What's the current book you're reading?
I'm reading the Amazon book. It's called Working Backwards. So again, I think aside with networking, books have changed my way of thinking a lot as well, especially when you become prolific in reading. So I'm on book 10 for 2021 already. So I'm reading a lot of books. And about two years ago, I did a speed reading course. So it helped me understand how to read faster. So that has helped me become prolific at reading. But it's also, I'm reading books that I'm really interested in. So I think my last 10 books are a lot of it, the focus is on company culture and leadership. And it's an area that I'm particularly interested in, because I want to get better at that myself. And I want to grow and cultivate a really positive culture in my business, and understanding how to do that and understanding how to become a better leader. And that's all by learning of what people have written in books, I think. And I've got huge inspiration from reading books, and a lot of the stuff I can implement in my own business, some stuff I can't. You get great ideas, you can try stuff. And again, along with networking, reading books has been massively inspirational. But I think anyone says that you're reading the right book at the right time. I'm reading the right books at the right time, and I'm gaining so much knowledge from it. It's amazing.
You said book 10. You got a goal this year?
Not really. I'm just trying to be consistent. I think the main thing that I want to be is just consistent. So I get up in the morning, read for half an hour, maybe 45 minutes, depending on how good that chapter is. And then at night time, I'll do the same, half an hour, 45 minutes. So I'll definitely read for an hour a day. And reading fast as well helps, but you can get through the books a little bit quicker. And you're also, it's not just reading fast, you're consuming the content. And I will normally listen to an audiobook as well. So I'm listening to the 48 Laws of Power. Is that the one? Which is an amazingly insightful audiobook. And some audiobooks that I listen to, I buy the actual books. I think one of the best audios I listened to recently was the 50 Cent, the 50th Power, which was unbelievable. And I bought that book because 50 Cent's story has really inspired me. And it's an amazing story from what he was, and his mindset to achieve what he has achieved in his life is extremely inspirational. So whenever I want to get in the inspirational mood, I stick on some 50 Cent music now. But
he certainly achieved a lot from that, hit show Power, to his music, to the endorsement from that water.
Yeah, well, he got shot 9 times and he lived,
Wow.
and that's when
Shit,
he had
didn't know that.
Yeah, that's when he had he was a pimp. No, he wasn't a pimp, he was a drug dealer, sorry. And he got shot 9 times, and that was the moment his life changed. I suppose we could say it would be quite obvious it should change after that.
Yeah, no shit.
But when he was recovering, I think his whole mindset and his life changed for the better. And that's what allowed him to achieve what he achieved when you consider where he was, and to where he is now, as a business person and entrepreneur and stuff. And I get a lot of inspiration from those stories, and I think when you're an entrepreneur, you need that inspiration to keep pushing you forward. And if it's not a book or an audio book, or if it's not someone in your network, it's you need to build that momentum, and you need to continually have that. And I think for me, all of those kind of things, it's just they're tools to help me create the momentum and create the growth, and to help me get to the place that I want to try and get to, ultimately.
Thinking of your businesses, 9th Degree Coffee, Dublin Barista School, you mentioned the worldwide online one. I don't know if you'd be familiar with the term cookbook. Essentially, just a number of things that you must do each day to keep your pipeline healthy and revenue coming in. So my cookbook might look like I've got to make 10 calls a day to the ideal target profile. I've got to keep in contact with 4 clients. I've got to send X amount of emails. And these are the must-do daily things that I need to do to make sure I keep my pipeline healthy. For you and your businesses, how do you make sure that you keep your pipelines healthy to generate business? You've said networking. What are the ways?
Yeah, well, I think one of the most important things, and probably overlooked things, is looking after my energy and making sure that when I come into work, because you have to understand what your job is. So when I come into work, I need to make sure that I have the energy to give to my team, because we have a sales team, we have a marketing team, we have an operations team, we have barista trainers, we have baristas. And I have to lead by example. And, I had to learn that the hard way. And so, my day is set out to allow me to come in and be the best and offer the best to my team, and inspire them to do the best jobs. And so that's down to, like I said, I really do believe that our business survives, thrives, should I say, because of the team that we have and the team culture that we cultivate within it. And that's all customer centric. It's customer focused, and how we deal, and the kind of the service that we give to our customers when they come in. Number one, if you're talking about our physical training business, the empathy levels are off the charts from our team, in terms of what we give to our customers, the emotional intelligence, the way we communicate, the customer experience. Like we've gone through this, and the team practice it. We don't just talk about it, we do it. And so whenever a customer walks in the door here, we have a plan for them, until they leave out the door. And what that gives us, it gives us that unbelievable referral system that our business is built on. So I switch off, in 2020, as an example, I didn't pay for marketing. It was our busiest year we ever had. And that was all down to the brand name that we built through the culture that we've created. And obviously, when we're creating our functional coffee business, we can't rely on word of mouth referrals from the beginning. So we have to have a marketing system in place. We have to have a digital marketing system in place. We're using Active Campaign as our kind of email marketing solution and our landing page solution, our email sequencing. So that's something that we're kind of launching into on the digital front. And it's very simple. I think we try not to overcomplicate it. We have a videographer in-house now who is prolific at creating content. So a lot of the content that you won't be seeing on social media is content that we're putting out to our potential customers and clients. So I believe in hard selling and knocking on doors and doing the work and research and not relying on Google ads and Facebook and stuff. We have to have a team who are knocking on doors and who are putting our name out there and who are sending out privately through email systems really high level content, and the people are going to engage in, and they're going to want to ask the next question. And that's the strategy.
I like it. It's hard to believe, but it all started with €500 from, according to your LinkedIn. 2 final questions. Second last question is, you're big into coffee. It's obvious. If you could fly anywhere in the world right now to experience their coffee or taste their coffee, where would that location be?
I think it would be, I'd go to Rwanda. I think one of my great, I've never been, but one of the great coffee experiences I've had was with Rwandan coffee. Most of my best experiences with coffee are from African coffees, as it happens, because they're so amazing in taste. But Rwanda they have a special story, especially after their history of genocide, and it was a war-ravaged country in the 90s, to how they've used coffee to help regrow their infrastructure, such as roads, schools. They work as cooperatives, so it's just thousands of tiny coffee growers come together and produce the most amazing coffee, and they use that money to rebuild their country. I think the story is phenomenal. The coffee that they produce is phenomenal. So yeah, that's where I go.
Interesting. I've got a friend in Colombia, in Bogota, that I am going out to post this lockdown lift, and I was curious, if you had picked Colombia as well, it would have been a typical answer. I guess most people would have picked. So it's nice to see you pick Rwanda. Last question: if anyone's considering looking into Dublin Barista School or even buying 9th Degree coffee, I'm assuming you've got websites online.
Yeah, so if you're looking to get a job as a barista, or if you're looking to start a business within coffee, then you'd come to Dublin Barista School. We offer a number of different types of training courses. So it's learn how to use equipment and machinery, or you can do consultation, business consultation. So we can help with all that stuff. 9thDegreeCoffee.com is where you'll find our mushroom coffee, and also just regular coffee as well. We sell that too, and all kind of coffee brewing stuff. So we have that. And and if you're in the corporate sector, baristaondemand.co will be out next week. And so you can check out if you want some interesting team building stuff. And
Well, I'll leave a link to the team building stuff and all the other stuff as well. You mentioned the Dublin Barista School. If you want a degree in that, funnily enough, my sister went to Dublin Barista School and she now works as a barista in a coffee shop in Ashburn, County Meath.
Job well done.
Job well done. There we go. Well, look, we'll leave it at that. John, thank you very much for being my guest today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.